Francis, I'm going to start off with you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult was it to conclude this amazing story?
Easy in the sense that we all love the source material and we all wanted to make the book. So the adaptation process, always has challenges, but we always knew the direction that we were going to go in. Obviously, this chapter is a very complicated chapter, so there were big challenges in the making of the movie. We shot over 3 countries, really challenging sequences, had a really rough winter, obviously lost an actor, so there were plenty of complexities and emotional troughs in the making of this, but the adaptation process was great.
Sam, hello, sir.
Hello.
From the last film, not the sewer scene, okay?
Yeah.
What was your favourite scene to film from this last film?
My favourite scene, wow. That's a really good question. I think, the sewer scene is the one that sticks out. That's all I can think about when I think about this last movie. That's all I remember. These guys were great, but seriously, the sort of struggles that we went through, we went to a dark place. I think we all did it together. We were holding each other's hands, but it was a really, really tough shoot, and all I could think about, pretty much through Catching Fire, was where I had to go with this character, and I had that at the end of the end of the sewers. But yeah, it was a really, really sort of tough shoot, and we basically I feel like we spent 3 weeks just sprinting through very claustrophobic and small and cold, at the same time hot, bizarrely, sewers. So I all my training, everything that I'd sort of prepared, I suppose, from the beginning, was all kind of building up to that point. So it was not only my favourite scene, but the hardest day of
my least
work.
Favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me turn that question on its head. I'll give you my least favorite.
So yeah, it's difficult to say other than that, really. I think obviously having the opportunity to film in Paris and Berlin equally was amazing. So all of that stuff was exciting to shoot. But yeah, that's it.
Always comes back to the sewers.
Always.
Liam, with Gale, that scene and just how you played that scene towards the end, I think, the one that I'm talking about. What happened to Tim?
Which scene are we talking about? The very last?
Yeah. That one, not the sewer, that one. Yeah. What happened to him?
Well, the sewers suck. So.
Let me just clarify that the sewer scene was my least favourite scene to shoot. It looks amazing though. That last scene, it's basically the realisation that he's finally lost her, for good. I think he realises that he went too far and did something that she always disagreed with. It's sort of the last goodbye between them. Not to ruin the story for anyone, but it's quite emotional and it's a goodbye for both of them.
Josh, the character Peeta in this particular film, was there a lot of discussion between yourself and Francis about this journey that he has on this chapter and these places that you have to go as an actor for that character?
Yeah, a lot of it was in the books, and in the script inherently. When I first read the books, that was the thing that I loved about Peeta so much, was the arc he got to go on and going from being this extremely trustworthy character that everyone can depend upon to this really twisted, almost bipolar, on the edge kind of character. But I think the biggest thing that Francis and I really talked about was what happened to him in the Capitol. We talked about what actual tortures he experienced. And I don't know, once you kind of start thinking in that way and start understanding what he went through, it kind of just became a part of the character. And to have this idea that you literally don't know which memories are real and which ones are not real, that's a really psychologically twisted and dark and terrifying. I think that was the thing that I thought was really important, was that it came across that Peeta was afraid of himself, and so that's kind of the direction we were trying to go with it. And then with having Woody Allen writing our script and everything, it really just was really poppy dialogue.
Oh,
It
man.
felt really natural.
I'm never going to live that down. Woody, sir.
Woody Allen.
Woody, sir, I'm going to bring you in. Hey, Mitch. I mean, we're so thrilled that you're here as well to talk about this film. I've personally been wanting to ask you about being part of this film for a number of films, but we're glad you're here. Thank you for being here. What is his motivation? He's stuck around. He's been there for these people. What's his motivation?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for thinking of me as Woody Allen. That's really that's one of the most beautiful. Thank you, because I love him. Second, the motivation I think is, initially I get to know these guys, and I'm, not wanting to befriend them because I know they're going to die in the early, in the first film, and then eventually, of course, I fall in love with them, these guys, and so I want to help them in this terrible world we live in, and be a mentor to them, and then at the same time, I have this awareness before they do that there's going to be a revolution, and so trying to navigate things with that knowledge ahead of time. God, was I as boring as I sounded to
No,
me?
not at all.
Yeah,
Definitely not. Finally, next to you,
Why do they
Stanley.
have the parties the night before these things? Sorry.
Stanley,
Yeah.
hello at the end, sir. Caesar.
Sorry, I was asleep for a minute. Go ahead.
I want to see the Caesar spin-off show. The kind of Caesar hosts like Panem's Got Talent or something. Do you know what I mean?
Talent,
That would be
yeah.
a great
Yeah.
show. Would you be up for it?
Oh, without question, yeah.
He needs his own clothing range for sure. Anyway.
Yeah.
Why does he not have any? Do you think he has kind of deep down he has sympathy for the revolution and for Katniss and her?
Yeah, I think he does. I think he does have sympathy for them. I think he has, he empathizes to a certain extent, but he has no real moral center. So, and he's the guy who just wants to be on the winning side. I mean, if we're pushed, came to shove, he would. And there were a dead rebel laying next to him. As the rest of the rebels are coming in, he'd take off his clothes and put that guy's clothes on, and put his clothes on that guy. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
he's that kind of person,
He's
and pretend he was a different person.
Yeah.
No matter how many times the regime changed, he'd be on the winning side.
Right. Okay, we're going to throw it to our audience.
I
I've got a
lost
couple
that
of
whole
people.
middle section. What was
Did
the
you
middle
what?
thing?
No, I was talking about your career.
We've got some competition winners, but I'd like to start our conference by going to Sarah Miliband, if that's okay. She's been invited along today by Make-A-Wish charity.
Sam, what will you miss about playing Finnick?
Wow. I tell you one thing I won't miss: the sewers.
Got it.
But no, I think for me, honestly, I will miss the sort of the physical life of Finnick. I think the opportunity to kind of play, to play quite literally and fight people and to hit people was really fun. I mean, I unfortunately did that for real once and broke a finger. But, nonetheless, it was all worth it. And I think when you watch the films, I think it's that side of it that I personally enjoyed filming the most, but I enjoy watching the most. Because there is a part, you do challenge yourself. You absolutely push yourself to the limits. But it shows, I think. I think we all put our heart and soul into this. We all there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Especially in the sewers, and I think it would be all the fighting. I can only hope that I get the opportunity to play with a trident again. It's very rare, I think. And actually, during filming, the one thing I will say I really struggled with was running around with a stick when everyone else had a gun.
I had handcuffs.
Yeah, Josh had handcuffs.
Stick
I
and
got a
handcuffs
stick.
over here.
We were holding each other's hands
lethal
most of the
too.
time. But, in a war, I don't know how much damage I could have done, really. But luckily, close combat in the sewers, just to mention the sewers once more, was okay. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, we've got our 2 competition winners. First up, Olivia. Where's Olivia? Hi, Olivia. Do you want to stand up? There we go. Take the microphone. And who's your question for, please?
Well, my question's kind of a general question. I was just thinking, there's a lot of emotional scenes in the whole trilogy. How did you feel filming these scenes?
The emotional scenes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. Your job as an actor is to bring emotion into the story, I think, and to move it along. And so anytime you get to have the opportunity to have big emotional swings in a scene, or when dramatic events are happening, it's always fun. I mean, it's the moment where you get to show the most of the character, the moment you get to kind of lose yourself most into the character. And that's like my favorite part about acting, is when you kind of forget where you are and what you're doing and what's happening around you, and you just are in that moment, existing organically. And so for me, I always enjoy those scenes. There are sometimes some of the more difficult scenes, especially if there's a lot happening around you. It's hard to focus and to. You all right?
I was just giving into it. I wanted to come closer and listen.
No, it wasn't to creep in. Like, what's he gonna say next?
I thought it was something he ate.
Me too. It's that vegan stuff.
Yeah.
No, but yeah. So for me, those are really enjoyable to do. And when you have an actress like Jen, who maybe doesn't take things the most seriously between takes, it definitely makes it even an added layer of challenge. But the crazy thing is with her, it's like you're joking, all of a sudden she like snaps it into like completely there in the moment and like disappears in the character. But no, I really enjoyed those bits of filming for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually would add to that too. I think part of the fun of these movies and part of what makes these movies great is the contrast between the intimate and the epic. And so I think we all really enjoyed focusing on the characters and focusing on the emotional journeys and not just the sort of scope and scale of the stories as well.
Yeah.
Right, thank you so much. Next one is Karina. Where's Karina? Hi, Karina. If you go to the microphone. Here we go. Hi.
This is a general question as well. If someone were to join a franchise like Hunger Games, what advice would you give to them?
Someone were to
Join
join
the
a franchise
franchise.
like Hunger Games.
Bring the sense of humor. Don't be too serious, because you'll get thrown to the wolves if you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the best thing about this franchise was not only was it important and it had great messages for young people and old people, we were all able to make such good friends with each other, and going through something like this where you go from, really extreme situations to really low situations. It's just, it's one extreme situation to the other. And I think for us, it made it so much easier and more enjoyable because we loved being around each other and we had our best friends there to support us. And especially for, Josh, Jen and I coming into it in the first one. The first tour was really overwhelming and it's very hard to kind of get used to. You get thrown into such an extreme situation. So I think we had each other there, and it made it a lot easier. So if you can make friends with your castmates, do that.
Make friends and have a laugh, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, we can open up to the floor now. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. Don't do that thing of waiting until the last minute. There we go, gentleman right next to.
Tom from Yahoo. Do you think this is the last we'll see of the Hunger Games franchise in the cinema? That's for everyone.
Francis.
Yeah, I think we finished the stories out. It's kind of bittersweet for us. We all loved making the movies. We all loved being together. But I'm very, very happy to have seen the stories through to the end. So if there were ever more stories, I think they have to come from Suzanne Collins. She has to have a new idea and theme that she's interested in and figure out new stories to tell that are in the world of Panem or around the world of Katniss and these characters. And if she came up with something, I'd be in a second.
So write letters to her.
Yes.
Woody, do you want to pick up?
Well, can you talk to her about it? I could use the work.
Next question, please. We go down the front and then we'll go to the back. Hello.
Hi, my name's Cassidy. I'm from BFBS, which is all military, and I'm a veteran myself. The military is in this film. Most of you played pretty worry people. I'm curious about, the military is kind of portrayed in a negative way in this film. I'm curious about your own opinions on the military and whether you drew any inspiration from the military to create your characters.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go, please.
I'm not positive that the military is portrayed in a negative way in this film. I think war is portrayed in a negative way in this movie, right? And some of the leaders are portrayed in a negative way. I wouldn't say the military is at all. I think none of us have anything but respect for people in the military.
Oh no, I wasn't.
So I just wanted to clarify that for us, it's more thematically about the consequence of war and violence, and exploring what that does to people emotionally and physically.
I think what happens a lot of times in movies is it gets glorified and war gets glorified, and I think the danger of that is you don't understand the full consequence of it. I mean, for me, it's all about you do everything you possibly can before you get to the point where you're risking lives. And I think in this movie, you see the sacrifice that people have to make. You see the the intense process that they have to go through when they are faced with the actual war. And so I think for me that's really what a big part of this movie was the consequence of war and the dangers of it, and trying to explore every avenue and avoid all of these conflicts and things that get you into a violent confrontation.
Thank you. And then lady at the back, please, for the question. Thanks.
Thanks. Hannah Furness from the Daily Telegraph. This is actually linked to that question. I wondered if I could ask anybody who wants to answer about the levels of violence in the film. Over here, it will be seen by children 12 upwards. You can't escape the fact that it's quite psychologically and physically disturbing in parts. On the other hand, we live in a world with real wars where children are really going through not dissimilar things. I wondered how you decided where to draw the line and what you think is appropriate.
That was probably the biggest challenge that I had in the making of this movie specifically. I think each of the movies has been violent in its own way. I knew this was going to be the toughest. And going back again to the source material, Suzanne wrote these books with the intention of writing about the consequence of war for teenagers. And so you go to make a movie about the same thing, and I think part of the reason the books are so popular is that she did not flinch. She didn't patronize kids. She didn't flinch at the telling of the stories and her treatment of the themes. And so I felt like we couldn't either. But in the visual interpretation of the stories, I wanted to make sure that we were, again, focusing on the emotional consequence of it, not the carnage, not the blood. If you've all seen the movie, you'll notice there's very, very little blood. That's not what I wanted to explore. It's not what I'm interested in. And that's kind of that became my guide for the visual treatment of violence in the film.